of Debt Nation, where we are busy putting death out of business. We're putting death out of a job. And we have to first rock into our sponsor. We have an official sponsor now here at Debt Nation. I'm very, very excited to announce that. We have Thrivous, Lincoln Cannon's fantastic human enhancement company. So this episode of Debt Nation is sponsored by Thrivous, the human enhancement company. Thrivous is giving exponential gifts to Debt Nation fans each week. Each gift starts at $5 and increases exponentially to $160 based on the number of fans that share the episode of Debt Nation within 24 hours. So you have 24 hours to start sharing this. It'll be in the description below. Check out the rules at the bottom in the description on the Debt Nation channel on YouTube. The last exponential gift was, well, we haven't had a winner yet, but we will have a winner. So if you want to get your hands on some Thrivous products, what you need to do, check out the description as soon as this live stream ends. Share it within the rules of the description, and you're going to get some credits to get some Thrivous. I would do that if I were you. That's very exciting. And every time we do this, there's going to be an award for somebody. So go and check out Thrivous. And go and get yourself some Thrivous, because this is a really, really cool deal. Pretty much, you just have to share Debt Nation, and you're going to get up to $160 worth of Thrivous products starting at $5. So thank you, Thrivous, and thank you, everybody here, for joining us here today. And Chairman Gennady Stolyarov, of course, out there. How are you, sir? Thanks for coming on the show.
Hello, Steele. I am doing well, and there have been many exciting developments with the United States Transhumanist-Party.
Fantastic.
That I have to share with you.
Yes, we will get into that. We've got an announcement update. We'll probably start a clock again. I love clocks, so we'll probably start up a clock again to count down to that announcement. And Ben Zion will be participating in that debate. He's actually prepping hard for that as we speak. It's always, and we have to just spend a moment to thank Ben Zion for doing so much hard work here on Debt Nation. He does hard work behind the scenes. He does hard work in front of the camera. He brings so many amazing guests and so much amazing talent to the show, and he helps the USTP so much. And we have to all applaud Ben Zion 2020 for all the hard work that he's doing to float techno-optimism. Do you echo those sentiments, Chairman?
Yes, indeed. Ben Zion has been diligently pursuing his candidacy as the USTP endorsed candidate for President of the United States. He has been engaging in numerous conversations with experts, with thinkers from across the political spectrum, and he is going to play a pivotal role in raising the profile of the transhumanist movement in the coming months. Indeed, part of the announcement that I have for today will discuss that in greater detail.
Fantastic. So yeah, if you want to show some appreciation to Ben Zion, give this episode a thumbs up. That we'd appreciate that if you did that. That'll help us a lot. So the first topic should be the results of the USTP, USTPL, USTP, USLP vote, which the chairman's come on to announce for the first time on the show, even before publishing them. Have you got those results there?
That's right, Steele. I have those results right in front of me. I have been tabulating them this evening since at 12:01 a.m. today, our 7-day voting period concluded. And this is a pivotal time in the history of our organizations, because the Longevity Party has actually been in existence since 2012, even longer than the U.S. Transhumanist Party, which was founded on October 7th, 2014. And the leadership of both of these organizations decided that it was time essentially to combine forces, because so much of our mission, so much of our focus really overlaps and complements the mission of the other organization. The U.S. Transhumanist Party holds as its first core ideal the pursuit of significant life extension through the progress of science and technology. The Longevity Party is, of course, all about longevity. That is the one issue that it has advocated. So on the ballot, we had two questions. First, what would be the name of the combined organization? And second, what would be the constitution of the combined organization? And the constitution had actually been drafted in extensive detail via discussions among the officers of both organizations. And the officer team has merged into a single team now, with myself as chairman, with Ben Zion as vice chairman, because Ben Zion was previously the chairman of the U.S. Longevity Party. And essentially every officer of both organizations who wanted to stay on was able to stay on, either in his or her current role or in a new role that was created in order to enable us to benefit from the skill set of that individual. So for the name, we had various options. One of them was the United States Longevity and Transhumanist Party. Another was the United States Transhumanist and Longevity Party. A third option, which was a bit more inventive, was Pilot, the Party of Indefinite Longevity and Optimistic Transhumanism. Another option was just to combine all of the names of our organizations, United States Transhumanist Party / Transhuman Party / Longevity Party. Another option was to keep the name United States Transhumanist Party and just use it for the combined organization, as if the Longevity Party had merged into the Transhumanist Party. And then there was a none of the above option, as always exists in our ballots. This was a ranked preference vote, and it actually took a few rounds of elimination in order to reach a final result. So indeed, we had 4 rounds of instant runoffs. And what I will say is that there was a fairly wide spectrum of preference among our members. And so some alternatives, like the United States Longevity and Transhumanist Party and Pilot, did really well in terms of the votes. But ultimately, the option that won, and won by a significant margin, is United States Transhumanist Party. In the last round of instant runoffs, round 4, when some of the lower ranking options were eliminated, United States Transhumanist Party won with 52.55% of the total reassigned votes cast. And the second best performing alternative, which was Pilot, had 36 total reassigned votes. So USTP had essentially double the number of votes in the final round as Pilot. And United States Longevity and Transhumanist Party reached 3rd place with 29 reassigned votes. So USTP had 72, Pilot had 36, USLTP had 29. And then at some point in the prior rounds, 2 votes had no other options remaining because the members who voted didn't rank order all 6 of the options. But in total, we had 139 ballots cast, which is our highest member participation other than for the presidential primary, where we had 312 members vote. But in terms of platform planks or candidate endorsements or other types of official business where we have requested that our members vote, this was our highest turnout ever. So members were enthusiastic about this, and it seems that they chose to stay with the current name. They recognize certain advantages to the current name. There is a fairly well-known brand now for the USTP. We've had over 5 years of history, and there's some name recognition. We have a Wikipedia entry. We have an H+pedia entry. We've been in the news. So I think the members recognize the value of that, and they recognize that this brand has largely been successful and effective in communicating the messages of transhumanism and longevity, and they want to keep that name going forward. Then, on the second question, with regard to this constitution of the combined organizations, we submitted it to the members for a binary yes or no vote, with, of course, the members having the option to abstain as well. And the reason why we did that was because we actually wanted this to be a fairly conservative move, small c conservative, in the sense that we did not want to radically restructure the governance of either organization. Rather, what we wanted to do was to merge the aspects of the two organizations' constitutions that were in any manner compatible, and also to formalize the governance processes that have already been in existence de facto. Because for the USTP, over the past 3 years and 2 months, we've essentially had what was called in our prior constitution the transitional period. And the transitional period was a time during which we were still essentially assembling our full governance processes and experimenting with them and figuring out, how do we attract members? How do we increase participation? How do we have effective processes that enable the organization to be run smoothly and for decisions to be made? And we have learned a lot through experience. And we believe that it was time now to move to the next phase, out of the transitional period and into a period of more formalized governance. One of the key aspects of this new era for the USTP is that we now have elected officers. And the slate of officers that I described to you, the combined USTP, USLP officers, has been elected for a 3-year term starting February 1st, 2020. So in 2023, in January, there will be an officer election, and that will be an open, competitive officer election at that time. And during this first 3-year term, we will have set the groundwork for that. So this constitution was submitted to the members. By the way, this constitution in Article 6 incorporates in full what the USTP platform previously had been in Article 3. It is restated there verbatim. There were no changes. And likewise, anything that we could keep the same has been kept the same. So the members were asked to essentially vote this document up or down. And 80.6% of the members chose to adopt this constitution, which I am very pleased by. This is a very clear mandate, in my view, for the USTP to continue on its present course. And I will say also, of the complement of that vote, the majority were abstentions. So 11.5% of those voting chose to abstain, maybe because they didn't have time to read the full Constitution, they didn't want to commit to it. Only 7.9% voted against it, which suggests that we have been doing something right. We have been on a course that the majority of our members, at least the active members who take the time to vote and consider the issues, approve of. And that's very encouraging. Previously, during the transitional period, the thought was the USTP hadn't yet grown to the point where it was representative of the transhumanist movement at large. But now I believe that it actually is, because pretty much everyone in the transhumanist movement is aware of who we are. We've grown the movement significantly over the past 3 years. And furthermore, we have shifted our focus from some internal infighting, which unfortunately had been happening over the past year, very much outward toward the general public, toward really bringing awareness to life extension and emerging technologies. This is why the Longevity Party, being a part of our organization now, is such an important development, because we have now all of these longevity enthusiasts who are going to be advocates for the USTP. And the USTP is going to be the vehicle by which longevity advocacy also is going to become more mainstream. So I would say going into 2020, this is definitely a great step forward for the USTP, for the Longevity Party, and for transhumanism. By the way, in terms of the opportunities available to our members, the discussion forums that exist, we are also going to keep as much the same as possible. All of the Facebook groups and Facebook pages associated with the prior names of these organizations are going to stay open. It's just that next to their names, we will affix wording to the effect that this is a part of the US Transhumanist Party. So there will be still a Facebook group called Longevity Party United States. Now it will also have, as part of its name, a part of the US Transhumanist Party. That way, nobody loses anything. Those older names are not going to disappear into the dustbin of history. We've preserved that history. We even have the statements of historical fact in our new Constitution, which have been expanded to mention the history of the Longevity Party, of its founders, of key events, so that that is remembered and that is memorialized, hopefully indefinitely going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic news. It's breaking news. So, we're talking here. If you've just joined us, thank you very much for joining us. We're talking here about the merger of the United States Transhumanist Party and the Longevity Party, and the implications of that merger. The fact that the Longevity Party and other related parties were going to be archived. They're going to be archived. And also the reconfiguration of the USTP leadership going forward. It is staying the USTP, the United States Transhumanist Party / Transhuman Party. That's the other piece of breaking news coming in here from Nevada, from the headquarters of the United States Transhumanist Party. Can we just go quickly through the core offices? So if you go to Transhumanist Party, transhumanist-party.org /leadership. We do have a list there. Chairman, can I confirm that that list is up to date?
That list is indeed up to date. And as you can see, once again, we have tried to be as small c conservative as possible in reconfiguring these officer positions. I will remain as chairman now for the next 3 years. Mr. Ben Zion will become the vice chairman. Pavel Ilin will be the secretary, as he has been, the secretary of the USTP. Caius H. Antony will become the vice secretary, and he will assist Mr. Ilin. BJ Murphy will remain as the director of social media. Our new director of scholarship is Dan Elton. Dr. Dan Elton works for the NIH, and he has done a lot of research on transhumanism as well. He is well versed in developments in emerging technology. He's also an active contributor to H+pedia and Wikipedia, so we're very pleased to have him in a scholarship-oriented role. Denora Delphine will remain our Director of Admissions and Public Relations. A great endeavor that she has been working on extensively recently is I Am Magazine, or the Immortalist Magazine, which has just had its first issue out. It is available for free, so please download it. It's a high-quality publication. We hope to see a lot more along these lines from her. Irene Vahanian, great director of marketing for the USTP, ardent advocate of life extension. I hope that you and I could do a show together with him sometime in the next week. Charlie Cam is our new director of longevity outreach. Of course, we know him as Ben Zion's vice presidential candidate, as well as the creator of numerous films popularizing the life extension message in an amusing and humorous way. David Shoemaker is our new director of applied innovation, of course, a person with a great deal of expertise in various fields of advanced technology throughout his career, and an ardent life extension supporter. Brent Reitze remains our director of publication. Tom Ross remains our director of media production. He has been responsible for some great enhancements to the USTP's marketing materials and visual media that we have put out over the past year. Justin Waters will remain our legislative director, and John Carrots will be the campaign director for the Ben Zion 2020 campaign for the time being. And he, of course, is known for being one of the candidates in the USTP primary process, and a great example of somebody who competed very well in his own right, a very great contributor to our debates, and someone who recognized the wisdom after the conclusion of the primary for all of the transhumanist candidates to come together and support one another and support our nominee to the extent possible. So he has been a great participant in our deliberations. And we do have a vacancy for Director of Visual Art, as you can see. So anyone who wants to apply for that can go to that link and send me an email, and we would be happy to entertain someone who wishes to essentially promote transhumanist art on the USTP website and seek out examples of art that is uplifting, that is future-oriented, that portrays emerging technologies and their effects in a positive light.
And we really want to encourage people to go to the transhumanist-party.org/leadership and reach out to these people in their appointed roles, use them to make the mechanism work harder and be stronger. And if you are interested in visual art, I mean, reach out and to scoop up that position. It's a fun position. Lots of transhumanist art is really, really fun. You get to play with a lot of the latest technologies, the latest software. It's really good if you have a really creative mind. It's a very strong field, Donati. I am looking at that field, and it's a very strong field. It's only getting stronger. So no, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this field works together and puts pressure on itself to always enhance. You know, we've had a good few years, internal squabbling, whatever. That's always part. It's always going to be part of the experience. But no, I think this is a very strong-looking field there, Donati. You also have foreign ambassadors. So we quickly want to run through those.
Well, a lot of our foreign ambassadors have remained the same over the past year, but we've added a few. And two recent additions that I would like to highlight are Vladislav Petrushenko for Belarus and Alex Cadet for Latvia. Now, Belarus and Latvia, of course, are both in Eastern Europe. They are neighbors of Russia, and also they border many other countries in Eastern Europe. This is a place where most of the countries are smaller than most US states. So it's very easy for people to interact with individuals who are foreign nationals relative to them. At least that has been the case since the breakup of the Soviet Union. So in practice, we expect Vladislav and Alex to venture outside the borders of those countries and interact with one another, interact with other notable personalities in that part of the world, go to conferences, and really expand awareness of the transhumanist movement in the United States. I will also add that in the former Soviet bloc, there is still this legacy of Russian cosmism, the philosophical movement from the late 19th century and early 20th century, which was one of the first to really systematically venture into these ideas of the prospect of overcoming death and disease in the physical, biological world. So the legacy of these thinkers has permeated into the cultures of those countries. And as a result, the sources of resistance to the transhumanist message are very different there than they are here. And by here, I mean in the United States, in Western Europe, in Australia, in the world that was more influenced by English culture as well as the cultures of other Western European countries. Because in those countries that were more influenced by Russia, the primary objections to transhumanism aren't from the desirability standpoint. Many people will not be saying, oh, this is unnatural, this is a sacrilege, how dare you? Rather, the primary objections are from a kind of fatalism, the idea that life is bad, life has always been bad, the governments are corrupt, we are dealing with a lot of material hardship right now. So while all of this transhumanism and futurism would be nice, a lot of people have resigned themselves to thinking this is not going to happen in their lifetimes or in their children's lifetimes, so why bother? And this is what I hope these ambassadors can correct, kind of restore a more hopeful, optimistic vision, not because I think the governance in those countries is going to materially improve. Maybe the Baltic countries will stay fairly reasonable in terms of governance. I don't have as much hope for, say, Belarus or Russia or even Ukraine. But because technology is going to create new opportunities that would, on balance, more than compensate for those defects in governance. So people can still lead better lives, even if there are problems with how the government officials behave, how the political systems work in those countries.
Yeah, it's a huge one. So go and check out that /leadership if you want to see that. Benelux countries are represented there, Europe, India, lots of different countries, Scotland, Nigeria, Japan, lots of countries all over the world. So that's really good. I am looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. I'm very excited. It looks like it's shaping up to be a very good year and a very good decade overall. And the more problems that are coming down the pipeline that we talk solutions to a lot of the problems that we talk about here on the show, as the problems manifest, the people will have to start choosing a path. And this is the time for the USDP to really say, we are the party that offers these solutions. We do offer the solutions to these problems. We've been saying this, but now when the problems start to hit people in the face, whether it's fires, disease like this contravirus, whether it's biodiversity collapse, or whatever the issues are, or even asteroids coming to hit Earth, or whatever the issues are, these are the times that they have to start showing solutions and showing a hard-headed approach to the problems that are arising. And I'm looking forward to seeing that in action. Thanks for everyone for joining us here today on this conversation with the chairman, Gennady Stolyarov II, coming in live from the United States in Nevada. And, another thing that's going on, Chairman, is Trump. President Trump. President Trump is, he's getting impeached. You wanted to say something on this issue. What have you got to tell us there from Nevada?
Yes, indeed. So this is my personal assessment of the situation with Donald Trump. It's not a position of the USTP, by the way, because we have members who span the conventional and unconventional political spectrum here. So some of our members may be Trump supporters, but I am not. I do support the removal of Donald Trump from office. Now, my primary reasons for supporting the removal of Donald Trump from office are not necessarily the same as are motivating his impeachment proceedings. I do believe he is obviously guilty of what he is being accused of, which is essentially engaging in a quid pro quo with President Zelensky of Ukraine to get him to investigate Joe Biden, Trump's political opponent, and his son, Hunter Biden. Now, one could say, well, what was Hunter Biden doing in Ukraine, sitting on the board of directors of an oil company? And that's a legitimate question, I would say. But I also believe it is not appropriate for the President of the United States in an election season to essentially use his political office to try to kind of shift the outcome of those kinds of questions. If there had been an independent investigation in Ukraine about this, that would have been perfectly fine. But nobody should be in a position to use this kind of extreme political power that the President of the United States has to essentially shift the scales against a political opponent or use a formal mechanism to cast aspersions on a political opponent. I do think that's crossing the line. But that is not my number one reason for supporting the removal of Trump from office. My number one reason for supporting the removal of Trump from office pertains to his egregious violations of human rights in the forms of the travel bans that he implemented against individuals from a variety of countries simply because they came from those countries without any evidence of criminal intent or wrongdoing or security risks stemming from those particular individuals, as well as the very inhumane family separation policy that Trump's administration enacted against immigrants trying to enter the United States. Now, I myself tend to be in favor of open borders, or at least a greatly relaxed immigration policy compared to today. But what Trump has done was not even maintain the prior immigration policy of the United States, which I would say was unnecessarily time-consuming, bureaucratic, sometimes a bit draconian. What Trump has done was violate basic standards of human dignity and how these travelers were treated, the detention facilities they were put in, the lack of basic care that they were given. Some children have died in custody. Some children have permanently been separated from their parents. And the last straw for me is the contemplated expansion of the travel ban that the Trump administration announced in recent years, adding more countries to the list, one of which is Belarus, which we had just discussed. Now, I myself am a US citizen. I was originally born in Belarus. Thankfully, I became naturalized a long time ago. And as a result, this is not so much a concern about what would happen to me personally, though it seems like the tension is kind of being ratcheted up very, very slowly. But it is a concern about people with whom I very much empathize, because I could imagine a 9-year-old kid right now in Belarus who just wants a better life, who obviously isn't a terrorist because no terrorists come from Belarus, who obviously isn't a security risk, but who might be thinking the way I was thinking when I was 7 or 8 or 9 and still living in Belarus. Essentially, is this all there is, or could life be better? Could life offer me more opportunities than remaining in pretty much a stagnant country, which I recognized Belarus to be even back then in the mid 1990s. And it is such a great shame that that kid today would not have the opportunity that I had for no reason whatsoever, just because some Trump administration officials who obviously haven't done their research decided to lump Belarus in with all of these other countries that are being proposed for inclusion on the expanded travel ban list. And again, there was no provocation for this, not from Belarus or from most of the other countries proposed to be included. And most of the people seeking to travel to the United States either do so for tourism purposes or because they want to follow the legal immigration process. So if they want to follow the rules, if they want to pursue opportunities for a better life, maybe even to flee the depredations of the regimes that are keeping them in those countries, now Trump is denying them that opportunity. So for me, this resurgence of nativism, of xenophobia, of these blanket characterizations of people from certain parts of the world as lesser or unworthy or inherently dangerous, even though they clearly are not. That is the primary reason why I believe Trump is a danger to the future of the United States and should be removed from office. That being said, I don't believe that this impeachment process will succeed in achieving that. Because even though he obviously is guilty of what he is being charged with, impeachment is a partisan process. And per the United States Constitution, it requires a 2/3 majority vote of the Senate to remove him from office. And that means essentially about 16 Republicans, give or take, would have to be convinced that Trump is more of a liability than an asset. And the logic by which they would make that decision, unfortunately, is not the logic of reason. It's the logic of partisanship. Trump is their person in office. Trump could be useful for them in enacting their policies. And so they are going to, as much as possible, turn a blind eye to facts and make the decision entirely based on partisanship. You could say the same thing about the decision to impeach Trump, though, as well, because for me, the main reason to impeach Trump wouldn't have been that quid pro quo with Zelensky. It would have been the travel bans and the family separation policy. But the Democrats didn't want to go there because, again, the decision to start the process when they started it was also a partisan decision on their end. So there is going to be a show, it's ongoing in the Senate, essentially a show trial, where the Democrats are going to try to present evidence, evidence that essentially has been in plain sight, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. The Republicans are well aware of this evidence, and they're still going to vote to acquit Trump with 95% probability in my mind. The real problem, and the reason why events are likely to turn out this way, is the two-party system in the United States. The fact that it has, in the halls of power, essentially become a matter of my team versus your team. If you consider what would have happened had all the senators been unaffiliated, had they been independents, would Trump have been removed from office? If essentially the entire decision was not, is Trump part of my team, or will Trump help me enact my policies, but rather, do my views and my principles as a senator personally cohere with the views and the actions of Trump? I think most Republicans on a personal level are deeply uncomfortable with Trump, but they have set that aside a long time ago. So I would say even the Republican senators who were associated with the Never Trump movement back in 2015 and 2016 are not likely at all to vote to convict Trump. And again, it is because of these labels, essentially, that have usurped the place of substance in American politics. The mission of the USTP in the political realm is to help break through that logjam. We're not the only party to try to do that. We are the party that does that with a focus on technology and longevity and an optimistic vision of the future. But I'm sure that the Libertarians, the Greens, the Constitution Party, the Justice Party, the many other smaller political parties in the United States would share that objective. So in that objective, I think all of these so-called third parties can unite and essentially make the case to the American people that it's time to stop treating politics as a team sport, essentially, and start getting back to questions of right and wrong, questions of principle, questions of what makes good policy, so that we can again engage this field as rational thinkers, as individuals, and as moral agents rather than as partisans. So I hope that will happen. I hope in 2020 we can make an influence on that transformation. But Donald Trump is going to remain president, in my expectation, throughout this year. And unfortunately, that gives him the opportunity to inflict more damage. I don't completely disagree with all of his policy decisions, but I think in the realm of immigration, the way he has treated human beings is absolutely horrific. So that is my outlook on Donald Trump and the impeachment process. Later on today, I hope to discuss an upcoming event where we are going to challenge some of this two-party system dynamic that has brought us to this point.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, the Chicago gig, what's going on over there in Chicago. But yeah, I think that Donald Trump will probably, I mean, you're right, Trump has not only pulled down a lot of the enemies around him, he's also made a lot of enemies, but he can pull down a lot of the big players, but he's also knocked down a lot of the core Republicans, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan. He's pulled down a lot of core Republicans that could have done anything to replace him in the event of an impeachment. He's made them walk, or he's made them too scared to challenge, and therefore he's the only one really left with any sort of pivotal role to play in the Republican Party. So impeachment would mean political suicide for the Republican Party, especially if they pulled the rug out from under themselves, and then a lot of their core policies would be reversed, and the party would go the way of the Whigs. So it's kind of a checkmate by Trump there, which signals very highly of his re-election coming up as well. I think his re-election is almost in the bag. I don't really see any challenges. Not Bernie Sanders. I don't see Bernie Sanders as being a particularly strong challenger. I don't see Elizabeth Warren as being a particularly strong challenger. Hillary would be good to stay away, but Hillary she's a black swan event that could shake things up, but I think it to the negative of the Democratic Party. Joe Biden, his son is not the only. This Zelensky stuff in Ukraine is not the only place that his son has got his fingers in the pie. Also in China, he's been making multi-billion-dollar deals, and Trump has been very sort of anti-China, especially on the economic side, to do with the tariffs and the trade wars, especially trying to get a better, more mercantilist deal for the United States, especially on the currency side, averting some of that currency risk. And although it's on that side, he's taken some weight. It's exposed Biden's son in the China framework, which doesn't get really brought up. So Biden's left out in the dry. The only, Bloomberg was a good mayor for Democrats in New York, but his policies don't translate to the national stage. They're good for New Yorkians. They're not very good for the wider American public, especially on things like gun rights. It's too divisive. He's not going to get past some of those policies. Healthcare policy is too generous for a lot of the richer Americans who have a lot of the drive in the conservative media to rally up the base against things that he wants. So Bloomberg is a big question mark. Depending on how he goes, eventually, if he ever gets onto the debate stage, he's been avoiding the debate stage for now. It would be interesting to see. Andrew Yang, obviously, not having much of a chance. Tulsi Gabbard is thought of by the Democrats as a Republican plant, or a Hillary endorser. She's called everything under the sun. So it leaves a lot of the the Democrats with a big question mark over their heads, and the Catholics are still yet undecided. Another big swing voting. The Catholics don't want to go with Trump. He's too evangelical. He's too Trumpian, and they don't want to go with the Dems. There's still a big swing vote, and the national security swing vote. I recognize, Trump had them in the bag, and then he started fighting with Gold Star families way back. And so they became a swing voting class, and the left is too radical for them. The left is too radical for them. They want to pull down a lot of the money that the military industrial complex. The right doesn't, but again, they were sparring with Gold Star families, so it makes it hard for the national security guys, which is another big swing voting vote. And so they're kind of left having a cold shower. So it seems like Trump, if he holds the evangelicals, Mike Pence, and a lot of the evangelical vote, as long as that coalition turns out, you've got a re-election there. The Democrats are too divided on a lot of the issues on economics, and the black community also doesn't have an idea of where they want to go. They don't want to go with any of them. So yeah, I don't see any much of a challenger for Donald Trump, especially in the upcoming election. But that's my analysis. This Chicago debate. Now this is going to infuse a lot of USTP language onto the debate stage. Ben Zion is currently preparing for that. We're really excited about that. We'll get a clock going for that. Can you tell us the USTP debate? What's going on in Chicago, please?
Yes, indeed. So on March 4th at 6 p.m. in the Chicago Hilton Hotel in downtown Chicago, the Free and Equal Elections Foundation is hosting an open presidential debate for any active candidate running for president of the United States to be able to participate in. And the Free and Equal Elections Foundation has hosted presidential debates among alternative party candidates before. They hosted quite a famous debate in 2012 among candidates like Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, and also the candidates from the Constitution Party, Virgil Goode, and the Justice Party, Rocky Anderson. And that debate was co-moderated by Larry King. It was live streamed. I remember at the time watching it with great interest and thinking how refreshing it was compared to the rhetoric that passed between Obama and Romney at the time. And also, the Free and Equal Elections Foundation has assisted a lot of different parties' candidates with getting more exposure, with navigating the system. They're not partisan themselves. They just want people to have more choices. And we, Ben Zion and I, have been in contact with Christina Tobin, who heads the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and with the help of another former USTP primary candidate, Kristan Harris, we've been able to get her to agree to host this debate on March 4th. Indeed, I personally have contributed a large portion of the funding needed to make this happen. And there have been other generous donors as well. And we hope to get more over time, but the amount of money that has been donated is sufficient in order to reserve the hotel, which has been done, in order to advertise the debate, send out communications, send out invitations to the candidates, arrange the logistics. So this debate is definitely going to occur on March 4th in Chicago. In-person attendance is a possibility. You can go to freeandequal.org. There will be a link to purchase tickets. Tickets are just $10 plus a small online processing fee. But I will be there. A lot of transhumanists who support Ben Zion's campaign are going to be there. And we hope that people of other persuasions also attend this debate, because this is the opportunity for cross-pollination of ideas. There's going to be a more extensive announcement released about the other participants of the debate, but I'll give you a preview. Zoltan Istvan, who founded the U.S. Transhumanist-Party, but now is running as a Republican for President of the United States, is going to be there. Some libertarian candidates are going to be there, including John McAfee, who was famous as the runner-up during the 2016 Libertarian primary. And then also Howie Hawkins, the Green Party candidate, is going to be there. We have reached out to some Democratic Party candidates as well. Hopefully, at least one of them will accept, because we want to have representation from all of the visible political parties in the United States, to the extent that we can achieve that. Now, one unfortunate obstacle to this is the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, which, in addition to setting these ridiculous exclusionary thresholds for its own debates, has threatened to disqualify from its debates any candidate who participates in a non-DNC sanctioned debate. And this is a problem for candidates like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, who are essentially being squeezed out of the debates now. Andrew Yang, despite his grassroots support, despite the fact that he really does have a message that is different from much of the Democratic field and a refreshing alternative with a lot of resonance within the transhumanist movement, he has failed to meet the very artificial polling criteria because the DNC didn't agree to conduct any polls during a dry period where otherwise Yang would have gotten the percentages needed to qualify. So unfortunately for now, Andrew Yang has not agreed to participate in this debate, but we hope he might change his mind, especially if he sees that the DNC is going to continue to put forth these barriers. But even if we don't get Andrew Yang, hopefully we'll get another Democrat to participate. I personally would be happy to have any Democratic candidate on the stage at that debate. And of course, any candidate from another party as well. Because for me, this election is about increasing the prominence of the USTP and transhumanism, but also it is about increasing the openness of the American political system to alternative voices. So when we have this prominent public event that is going to be live streamed, where there are going to be journalists, where there's going to be an in-person audience. That's an opportunity for all of these alternative thinkers to be in the same space, to interact with one another, and hopefully to realize that we have a lot in common. Indeed, we have a lot in common in the fact that we recognize that American politics is broken and that we have some solutions, or at least each of us has a piece of the solution that can be implemented to fix American politics.
Yeah, it would be really, really good, and it's disturbing, and it's really horrible that the DNC puts all these barriers up to free and open exchange, limiting the players. A lot of the players like Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard or some of the others up there on the stage, they make a foray in order to change the conversation, and then are yet limited to how openly they can change the conversation. Bernie Sanders has this problem a lot, for example, and it's just a very totalitarian way to run your party, and it's part of this two-party system mechanism that's sort of slowly crumbling under the weight of the regime. It's people are getting sick of it. They want new voices. They want a new way of doing things, new opinions, new ideas, and it's people like yourself. It's parties like the USTP and these alternates to get together and to coalesce as a force to show America that things can be done different, and that you can have different opinions and different alternative visions to how society can function and how society can move along. And it's very good and very encouraging that this is happening. So we're going to track that right now, March 4th. We'll track that here on Detonation, make sure everybody is well aware that is going to be happening. As you said, this is a big investment for the USTP infrastructure, so we're going to make sure we can do all we can to get that reach. And we'll have a special debate day here on March 3 to March 4, Australian and American time, in order to emphasize that and hopefully do some rolling commentary before and after on that debate, where we will start to see a change in the debate. And everyone who drives home from that theater will be thinking a little bit differently and having a bit of a different conversation, and that's what it's all about. So that's really, really, really good. Speaking of Detonation, Detonation is changing its format just a little bit. We will continue with how it's been over the years, with different guests and stuff. But we also will be moving to a permanent time. That permanent time has not been yet arranged, but we will be moving to some permanent time so people can know when to tune in. They can be able to go, it's on Sunday night American time, Monday morning Australian time, something like that, so that we can get a more fixed time and with some fixed guests, so that people can join us and have better chats and be more coordinated in when and where and who is coming on Detonation in order to formalize it a little bit more. I want to thank Thrivous as well. Thrivous is, the human enhancement company. That's Thrivous.com. Check out Thrivous.com. Thrivous develops and distributes advanced nootropic and geoprotector dietary supplements to enhance cognition and promote healthy aging. Each nutrition and each dose is based on multiple human studies, and all quality control is completely open source. And remember, starting just after this video ends, there'll be go to the description, share this video around, and you'll be in the running to win anywhere from $5 to $160 worth of Thrivous. So get sharing on the video, follow the description. You'll see how to do it, and you can snag yourself some Thrivous. Even you can do it too, Chairman. There's no limits to who can get themselves on some free Thrivous. Follow the description for that. So thank you very much. No, look, it's fantastic. We're going to ramp up Detonation across this year. I've launched a Patreon now. If we can get a few dollars in there, that'll help me as well, because each dollar will be exponential. Each dollar I invest, I can use to enhance the show. that much more and get more sponsors. Eventually, we'll get enough watch time to run ads again on the channel, so that will take some more stressor off, and we can enhance the quality of the show, get more people on the show, get more voices on the show, and hopefully have another commentator and get this thing moving in a direction that's beneficial to you and to me and to the audience and to the world at large and the voice of America. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairman, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to talk to you again.
Thank you, Steele. It has been excellent speaking with you as always.
Fantastic. Yes. And again, thank you, Ben Zion, for doing so much hard work. You're doing a great job, and we'll be looking forward to seeing him at the debate on March 4th. All right, that's it for Detonation. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here at Detonation. If you haven't already, click subscribe. That would really help us out a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you all for commenting, and thanks for joining us. That's it, Detonation.